And again, I still remember those first times which I did meditation. Even the first meditation I ever did was only for 5 minutes. A Tibetan monk, was introducing just how to meditate just by following his instructions, only for 5 minutes. But even that, it felt good. I always follow those intuitive feelings rather than theories, and that would always be more reliable to lead you into understanding what this meditation was, how peaceful it made you. But not just peaceful, how much more intuitive you become by calming down all these thoughts and comments and being more sort of insightful. Last week, for a good example, but sometimes on a Sunday, when I go back from this temple here back to Bodhinyana Monastery, often I just take the opportunity to go and visit Ajahn Santuti over in Rollystone in Kusala Hermitage. It just gives an opportunity to connect again together, find out if there's anything he needs, how things are going. I would always much prefer that than sending emails or telephone calls. I know there's many other things you can do, like chat GPT or something like. Look, I'm an old monk, I don't know those things. It's much nicer to be able to find out how people are going by sitting next to them and just talking. That's how I feel anyway. And one of the things which Ajahn Santuti was doing in his temple over in Rollystone, that he was teaching a meditation retreat afternoon, only in the afternoon for a few hours. And the people who were going to that little afternoon session, I started to look at them, they were all very young. You can stay and cough, please. Don't need to go. But anyhow, they were really young, and I started doing a little bit of math and realized that some of those could have been these students I taught in Rollystone Primary School about 20, 30 years ago. I was invited to give a talk at the primary school, but no one told me who exactly I was going to give the talk to. And it was grade 1s and grade 2s. Now, grade 1s and grade 2s, you can't talk about Four Noble Truths. You can't talk about dependent origination or rebirth or things like that. How on earth can you teach some kids 6 or 7 years of age, not 7 years of age, 5 and 6 years of age? I like those challenges simply because I've never done it before, and it makes you become more intuitive. So what I did on that occasion was actually to ask them a simple question. They were all sitting in front of me, and their parents were on the side, because Rollystone at that time was a very strong Christian community, and they were wondering what on earth was a Buddhist monk doing to their kids. So I just asked them a simple question. The simple question was, how many of you kids don't like rice pudding? Simple question. Rice pudding, how many of you don't like it? And of course, this is 5 and 6 year olds, they look around, see what other people are going to answer. About 3 or 4 of those kids put their hand up. They certainly did not like to eat rice pudding. And then the other kids looked at them, so they put their hand up as well. And then after about 5 minutes, all the children in that group, every one of them, put their hand up. They agreed they did not like rice pudding. Thank you. Now please put your hand down. I'm going to ask another question. Can you please put your hand up if you've ever eaten rice pudding? And only about 6 or 7 kids put their hand up. They'd eaten rice pudding. And the wonderful thing was that all those kids, they started laughing. So did their parents. So did their teachers who were watching. It was a wonderful way to start the little talk to little kids. What things don't you like? Have you ever eaten them or tried them? A lot of times, it's amazing just how we stop so many things in life which are kind of nice for us or good for us, and other things we just continue on doing which are still painful. How much of our life is not based on experience? And this is one thing which I found really important. And because I saw so often that many philosophies and religions sounded good, but were they really based on experience? And then when I came across things like meditation, that's the only way to learn what meditation is, how it works, is to experience it. And it kind of blows your mind. There's so many wonderful experiences which you've seen and also experienced, which kind of should be impossible, but happen. Just like your health. How on earth can you be healthy when you just sit cross-legged for so many hours of the day? Wouldn't it be better to exercise? Would it? What would you say? And that's actually what you do. And oftentimes, people ask me, and I've known many of you for such a long time, and you say, Ajahn Brahm, you should do some more exercise. And I say, no, I prefer sitting down cross-legged, being still. That's crazy, you're just too lazy. But honestly, when you sit perfectly still, you get so much more healthier. Even just right now, a few moments ago when I was meditating, you can feel your body. You can actually see it. This is my own CT scanner. Okay, there was this man who went to the vet, and he said, my dog's really sick. And the vet looked at the dog, said, your dog is not sick, your dog is dead. So no, it's just sick. That's what it does when it's sick. It just lays there. And he said, no, it is dead. I don't agree with that, said the owner of the dog. So the vet had to do a test. So what the vet did, to make sure the owner understood what the problem was, he got a little cat for one of the cages. And he got the cat, who was very much alive, and put the cat's nose right in front of the dog's nose. And the cat went, the cat was just squealing in front of the dog. The dog never moved. He put the cat on the dog's backside, and the cat tried to scratch the dog. Again, the dog never moved. Turned the dog on its back and put this cat right on the dog's soft belly. And the cat just was still. And so the owner said, my dog would never do that if he was alive. I admit it, the dog is dead. Sometimes that's how much we have to do to prove to people that, your dog is lost its life. But then the vet gave the bill to this owner of the dog. And that, when the owner of the dog looked at the bill, it almost like killed the owner. $1,020. $1,020! How can you justify that? Said the owner of the dog. $20, was for my fee, and $1,000 for the CAT scan. That's what I used to say, CT scans. I'm glad you laughed, thank you. The CAT scan. But it's kind of innovative. And so many times, like, I love telling the stories when I kind of do this half on purpose, I must admit. When I did get invited to give a talk before then, when I gave a talk at a Human Resources Conference in Singapore. What am I doing talking about HR? I'm a monk. I know about meditation. But this was a big conference, so I was supposed to give the keynote address in UK. This was at a big conference centre they had there in Docklands, newly built. And because it was UK, that's when my home was, where I was born, and very few people know that actually I was born in the bush. I was. Shepherd's Bush. It's one of the suburbs of London. That's a joke. But, I told my brother I was going to give a talk at this place, and so he never replied. So I went there, and these people, they paid business class airfares to go all the way to UK to give a talk at this convention centre. It was like high class. And I was told by the organiser when I got there early, they said, there's a couple of people outside who say they know you. They're trying to get in for free. And I thought, really? And then it says it's your brother and his daughter, your niece. So I went to the entrance to check out. He never told me he was coming. And he worked for a bank. He was reasonably wealthy. I told him off. Why are you trying to get in for free? You can afford it. And he said, you know how much they're charging to listen to your talk? I think it was this was quite a few years ago, about £100 per person. Now I know how cheaply you're getting this talk this evening. It's supposed to be 100 quid per person. How many people in this room today? The Buddhist Society of Western Australia, you're losing a lot of money by not charging at the gate. But anyway, he said, okay, you can get in. And the other person was my niece. You know what my niece calls me? Come on, I told you this before. Munkle. That's kind of right, isn't it? Like uncle, but munkle. It makes much more sense. So anyway, but then, what do you do teaching at a human resources conference? What does meditation and Buddhist teach you about simple things like running a company and having human resources? Well, it teaches you so many beautiful things. Because I remember just giving a similar talk over in, because I've been traveling next week, in Cathay Pacific. That's, the Hong Kong airline. And I gave a talk in there. Many Thai people work for Cathay Pacific, and they invited me to their place, and then eventually invited me to give a talk. And it was a very popular talk. So they also, actually I don't know, it's many years ago now, it shouldn't matter. They also invited me to go into their training section where they train all the pilots and all of the staff. So even they let me sit in the pilot seat where the pilots get trained. I'm not supposed to be able to do that. They took the photos of me of Captain Ajahn Brahm. Is any pilots here? Commercial pilots? Good. But what they do? They have the window which the pilots face. You just press a button. You can choose which airport it looks like. Press a button for New York, and it looks like New York. Press a button, it looks like Perth Airport, Sydney Airport. Just a little button on the screen. It looks like you're landing at all these different airports. I shouldn't have done that, but anyway, it's good fun. But also why I did that was because the HR manager for Cathay Pacific listened to the talk and found it was really helpful, and he employed many of the things which I said there in the training for Cathay Pacific, for all their staff. One of those was the Emperor's Three Questions simile. This is stuff which is basic Buddhism, but which really applies to anybody in any organization, in any company. In brief, Emperor's Three Questions. When is the most important time? Who is the most important person? And what's the most important thing to do? When was the last time I said this here? Hopefully it's a while, there's enough of you don't remember the answers. The first answer is very easy. When is the most important time? Exactly. When is the most important time to say sorry if you've hurt someone? Now, please. You know, many of you have partners, you have kids, you have parents. If you made a mistake, don't ever say, I'm going to say sorry tomorrow. That never comes. Do it right away, right now. And that feels just so much more alive and worthwhile. So now is the most important time. Who is the most important person? If you know the right answer, please be quiet. Who is the most important person in the whole world? Me? No way. The answer was just amazing. Most people, if they haven't heard the right answer, they say oneself. It's totally wrong. It kind of shows just how selfish our world has become, that we're the most important person. It's wrong. The correct answer, the most important person in the whole world, is the one right in front of you, whoever that happens to be. No, I'm not always right in front of you. Somebody's got your eyes closed. But the depth of that answer, if you're like working on the check-in counter at Cathay Pacific, or you're working as a flight attendant, the captain of the aircraft's not important, they're in a cockpit somewhere. The one right in front of you, the one you're looking at, the one you're talking with. That made so much sense to me. When I first read that, I was still a student. And sometimes, some of these professors who were giving a lecture, you go up to them afterwards and ask a question. And when you ask the question, they try and get rid of you. You weren't important, you were just a scruffy little student. They had more important people to talk with. Have you experienced that? That really, I don't mind saying what they say in English. That sucks, that's terrible. That's not how a person should actually respond to someone. If the littlest kid in this hall comes up and asks me a question, if they're right here, right in front of me, I really try to make sure that they feel like they are the most important person in the whole world to me. Or the oldest, middle-aged, I don't care who you are. You may be deformed, maybe going through a bad cancer, I don't care. It's if you're right in front of me, you are really important. And that changes my life. I like seeing this, that sometimes when you see, like my teacher Ajahn Brahm, sometimes really famous people would come up to ask questions. And they just sit anywhere. They would never be given a front seat. Actually today, the most important people, which is right in front of me, are the ghosts right in front. Is that true, Eddie? Yes. But it means I don't know who I'm going to be talking to. If they're right in front, they are the most valuable person. And the most important thing to do is not to get rid of them, not to get a donation for the Buddhist Society or stuff like that. The most important thing is to be kind. When you experience kindness from someone, I mean real kindness, how many times does that change your life? Or if you see someone else being kind, that's really beautiful. Just one of those kind things which I remember was when this Laotian lady, years ago, she was sent to Perth as a refugee, and all her family was sent over to the United States, to Oregon. And I don't know how that mistake happened, but if you're a refugee, and most of your family is on the other side of the world and you're sort of here, that's really, really tough. And it got very hard for her when she got I forget, it was telephone or fax in those days, saying that her mother was dying. So that's your mum. And you can't get to her, you don't have enough money to get an air ticket. So she came up to me on one Friday afternoon. She was crying her eyes out, really weeping. Why did this happen to me? My mum's over in the United States, I'm here, I just can't get to her. And as she was crying, and I was trying to think whatever I can do, maybe get a collection and get a ticket for her. As a monk, you don't have money. And legally you can't use BSWA money for that. So I thought, what am I going to do? And as I was feeling guilty that I don't have the means to help her, then there was this Thai nurse just sitting behind us. She was out of work, been out of work for years. She had an injury on her back and she couldn't get it fixed up. And she got something out of her handbag, got out a pen, a blank check, signed it, and just gave it to this lady. I knew she wasn't wealthy at all. And that's one of the nice things about being a monk. You get to know people who are supporting the monastery, and you try and help them out, and some people don't have that money at all. Blank check. Please go and get an airfare as soon as possible. Go and see your mum. It's one of the most generous and kind things I've ever seen. How many of you have ever written out a blank check? I know some of you have, because I've tested you. I usually give it back to you. But they're so generous and so kind. And that was maybe 30 years ago now. And I still remember it with a lot of joy and happiness. Just the kindness we give to our friends. So this is one of the reasons why that kindness is so important. One in front of you, whoever they are, is the most important. The only time is now, and the only thing to do is be kind. Whew. So these are one of the reasons why when I talked like this to Cathay Pacific, to their staff, wow, thank you. And he came up to me and asked permission, formal permission, can I use this as standard training for all the staff who work for Cathay Pacific Airlines? Of course I gave permission. But you know what happened next? They got into financial trouble because of the COVID times. But not because of me. It's still a beautiful thing to be able to do and to be able to teach others. Imagine you had worked in a company like that. The money's not important. Well, it pays the bills. The most important is how you feel when you work in a place like that. Whether you are respected, you can talk to someone and they do give you full attention. Whether they are being kind to whoever it is who's standing in front. Do I practice like that in Bodhinyana Monastery? Monks have to be honest. Sometimes it's true, the now times. I do go on retreat myself. Sometimes I wonder, why is it that we have such a large monastery with so many people? Why is it we have a lovely nuns monastery too? What is it which makes the sense of harmony and people working together in the community? There aren't monasteries like this in Melbourne and Sydney. We hope there will be in Melbourne, but not as big as this, and as cohesive as this over so many years. And one of the lovely things I enjoy about this monastery, I say this often when I am speaking over in Bodhinyana Monastery, where everybody comes from. It's not a Thai monastery, it's not a Sri Lankan monastery. You are from so many different nations. You're all so much welcome. And even today, I was saying, we had a Bodhinyana monastery. We had some Thais, some Sri Lankans, some Brazilians, and you know that we even had some Australians there as well. How can you relate to so many people, even though they come from totally different cultures? This is something which goes beyond culture. Being able to have that beautiful way of relating to anybody who's in front of you and being able to give them some beautiful gifts. That's a kindness. I've often found this, that sometimes that when you're talking with someone you don't know who they are, sometimes they don't tell you, how deeply they're having problems in their life. Most of the people who come and talk to me are because they have problems. If they don't have problems, they usually go back home straight away. Don't be embarrassed. I'm very happy to be able to serve as best I possibly can. But when they have so many problems, and all those problems are basically the same. All of them, you're always asked to perform, but you don't know really what you have to do. All I ever do is listen to you and say a few funny words. If they're not funny words, some of them are profound, if I'm lucky, to be able to reassure you, to make sure that you felt like you're worthwhile, every one of you. Doesn't matter how many degrees you've got, how beautiful you are, or how successful the world says you are. How do you actually feel? And why is it that sometimes we feel that we're not performing, that life is just too tough, the world is just too hard? Why do you ever feel like that? Why do you get depressed? It's because that's such a huge problem in this world. And as a Buddhist, you have to address it. And there's so many wonderful ways of dealing with the depressions in this world. The best ways is realizing there's always benefits no matter what you ever experience. It's better to experience even those unpleasantness than not experience anything at all. The disappointment you have in life. What do I mean by this? Sometimes we don't know how things are going to actually work out. Once upon a time, this is a traditional Buddhist story. Once upon a time, there was a man being chased by a tiger in the jungle. And there's two things to know about tigers. Tigers like eating men, and women as well. Number two, tigers run much faster than you. If you're being chased by a tiger, you're in big trouble. So as this man was running away from the tiger, he saw a big hole in the ground, like a well. And he knew he had no choice. He jumped inside that well. And he realized he was in even more trouble. The well was dry, no water in the bottom. It was a deep well. He was going to sort of kill himself for the fall. And even if he survived, he would never be able to climb out. So instinctively, he grabbed on something on the side of the well to stop his fall. There was a tree root there, a dry tree root. And he could hang on to that, and he didn't sort of go any further. Halfway down the well, hanging on to a tree root. Now, what would happen? When you're being chased by a tiger, you make these decisions not worrying about the consequences. But the tiger hadn't given up yet. The tiger was determined. The tiger was leaning over the edge of the well, trying to paw him. And he was just an inch or two too low, so the tiger couldn't quite reach him. But that wasn't much of an escape. So he looked in the bottom of the well. In the bottom of the well there was no water. There was a very big black snake. Thank you. And that snake was disturbed by his fall. The snake had uncoiled, lifted up its head, opened its hood, trying to bite his feet, which were the lowest part of his body. But the man was about an inch too high. The snake couldn't quite reach him yet. So what could he do? He had a tiger on top, a snake underneath him. So he was thinking, I'm in trouble. And then he noticed these two mice come out from a hole just above the tree root. A black mouse and a white mouse. And both of them started chewing at the root, making it thinner and thinner and thinner. Would you get worried? This guy didn't, because he noticed something strange. As his hold on security, on safety, got thinner and thinner and thinner. It was only a matter of time before that root broke and he'd been even really big trouble. He noticed that tiger trying to reach the man, leaning over the well, was rubbing his backside against a tree, making the tree shake. A branch of that tree was overhanging the well. And on that branch, there was a bee's nest. What happened? Because the tree was shaking, there's a bee's nest there. Honey started to drip down the well, right over him. So he put out his tongue and enjoyed the most delicious honey he'd ever tasted. And that was the end of the story. That is so much like life. How many times you've been told, no possibility of the company carrying on. You got a cancer, you're going to die within a few days. You've been told that the world's going to end. You know that just your relationship is on the rocks. I don't know just how many tragedies are just right in front of you, only a matter of minutes. Just like that guy. But the world gives you wonderful opportunities to enjoy honey. Now is the most important time. The honey right in front of you is the most important, always the most delicious, and the most important thing to do, to eat it. That's why I thought it was a brilliant story. Now, to make you more satisfied, what's one possibility how that story could end? This is how I imagined it would end. The tiger just went a little bit too far over the well, lost its balance, toppled into the well, missed the guy only by a few inches, and crushed the snake dead. So the tiger died, the snake died, and having had the honey, he was strong enough to climb up the rest of the well and to escape without any problem. That's a possibility. That could happen. Why is it the possibilities, even if they are unlikely, it could happen in real life? And sometimes we don't see all those possibilities. And sometimes we just give up too early. Please remember that story if you ever get depressed. But oh, sorry, I can't resist this one about depression. I did tell one of the stories about depression, about having a sore bottom. No, it's not a sore bottom, but an itchy bottom. Was that last week or the week before? No. Okay, here it comes. A painter, an artist by trade. And he had a motorbike accident. And he went unconscious during the accident. And when he woke up in hospital, the doctors told him they'd had to amputate his hand. He was too badly injured, a threat to his life. So he woke up in the hospital without his painting hand. And he thought, he got depressed. This was what he loved to do, what he was good at, what was his occupation, what was his life. And he lost his hand. So he decided, he got depressed, and like many people who get depressed, he decided that as soon as he can get released from hospital, he'll find a nice, like a big office block over in St. George's Terrace in Perth, get the elevator up to the office block, which would be unoccupied, go inside, go out to the veranda, and jump off to kill himself. He got suicidal. That's the only way he thought he could conquer that depression of not having a hand anymore. And as he looked down on the street in St. George's Terrace, he saw one of the things he never ever expected to see. There was a man down there with no arms at all. He'd lost both arms. And he was dancing up and down the street for joy. Well, how can a person have so much happiness when he's lost both of his arms? And why am I so depressed? I've only lost a hand. So that changed his plan about committing suicide. He decided to live. But he wanted to find out the secret of happiness of the man with no arms. So he ran down, and so he got to the elevator, got down as quick as possible, and started running after the man with no arms. When he caught up with him, he hugged him. "Thank you, you don't realize you've saved my life. I was about to commit suicide because I've lost my painting hand. And there's you, dancing up and down the street with joy. You've lost both arms. How can you do that?" And the armless guy said, "Actually," control yourself, Ajahn Brahm. "Actually, I'm not dancing up and down for joy. I've got an itchy bum. That's the only way I can scratch it." How on earth could you, if you've got no arms, scratch an itchy bottom? Okay, I'll tell the last depression story. I'm just in this mood tonight. That was the suicidal spider. How many of you remember that story? I need to put their hands up, thank you. For those who do know it but decided not to put your hands up, thank you. So you know spiders, they have to build their own homes. You can't get a contractor in to build homes. You can't rent a home. It's even more difficult for spiders, to face the cost of living these days. So this female spider, she decided to build a home in the corner of somebody's house. And she put so much effort and care and mindfulness into the building her first home, this beautiful spider web, that when it was finished, little spider was exhausted, but also so proud. The first home she'd ever built, it was beautiful. It was an architectural masterpiece. And so because of her tiredness, because she was hungry, she sat in the middle of that spider's web, waiting for lunch to appear. And soon, like a fly or a mosquito or something would land in there, and that would be her lunch. But before she could have lunch, the owner of the house saw a spider web in my house and got a broom, smashed the web to bits, and that spider had to escape for her life. She had to run really fast and get out of the house before she was squashed. And the spider started thinking, why is it that human beings don't like spiders? They don't do any harm. They catch mosquitoes and flies and all those things you don't like. They keep the house comfortable for you. If ever you see a spider web in your house, you should thank the spider. Don't ask for anything. They just eat a fly here, a mosquito there. So she got so disappointed. She went in the next house, but she didn't put so much effort and care into building her next spider's web. She finished it, really hungry and tired, sat in the center. Only about 5 minutes before any food came, the husband who lived in the house saw a spider's web and got a stick and smashed that to bits. Second spider's web was destroyed. It went into the third house, and the fourth house, and the fifth house, and the sixth house. Same thing happened every house. And every house, it made a quick web, faster and faster, because it wanted to eat something. And then the spider realized people don't like spiders. She couldn't understand why human beings and spiders don't get along. So she decided not to build any more spiders' webs. She had what we call these days PTSD, post-traumatic stress. Even just thinking of that, the corner of somebody's house made her shake. So what could little spider do? she started getting more and more depressed. No one loves me. You're rejected, you're hungry, you've got no home. You ever been homeless before? Imagine being a spider. No home to go to at night. No place to get any food. No place to rest. It's really very depressing. So the spider got more and more depressed and decided the only option it had was to commit suicide. That's why we call it the story of the suicidal spider. I remember telling this story over in Hong Kong, Chinese university, which had a lot of incidences of suicide with the students. Fortunately, this story actually helped. That's why they keep inviting me back again as many times as I can. If I'm in Hong Kong, I have to go to the Chinese university and shut in. So anyway, this poor spider got suicidal. So decided to walk under people's shoes on the sidewalk to get squashed. Deliberately went underneath their feet. But every time, always got to that space between the heel and the front of the foot. So decided, this isn't working, so decided to cross the road and get squashed under a big lorry or truck or something. But every time made it to between the wheels, never actually under them. And he realized something very important, that when you're depressed you can't do anything right, not even suicide. So, suicidal spider was staggering down the road, not knowing where she was going. She was like being drunk. That's what happens. You don't care where you're stepping, where you're going. But then she had this weird experience, which many of you have. You felt like someone was looking at you. So she turned around, and there was the biggest, fattest, jolliest spider you'd ever seen. She said, "What are you looking at me for?" That's what she first thought. But then she said, "Hang on a moment. You a spider?" "Yes," he said. "How come you're so fat and happy?" "I'm a spider too. I'm depressed and miserable." "So why?" said the big fat jolly spider. And then the very thin spider told a sad story of its life. So many incidences, being close to death. She didn't know why. Why do people hate spiders? I don't do them any harm. Well, they were trying to squash me and destroy my homes. How many homes have you ever lived in? Imagine 6 houses being squashed and you running out in the middle of the night for your life. Has that ever happened to you? So you can imagine why that suicidal spider was suicidal. And this fat spider said, "No, it's never happened to me. I just built one web in my whole life. It's still there. And I catch plenty of food. Look how fat I am. I have lots of food. And I don't have to worry about anything. That's why I can come out in the afternoon and enjoy the sunshine." And the suicidal spider said, "Hey, are you trying to con me or something? To trick me? Is this a scam? Where on earth can you build a spider's web today where no one else disturbs you?" And the big fat jolly spider said, "I built my spider's web, and it's so big, I get so much food, you can come and join me if you wish. But please tell me where you built it." "I built my spider's web in the donation boxes of the Buddhist Society of West Australia." Please excuse me. No one ever disturbs you there. So please Aurora, do you sometimes empty those donation boxes at the end of the week? Who does that? No one needs to, because there's nothing in them except spiders. Oh, someone must not. So anyway, that's the story of the suicidal spider. So if any of you get depressed, remember there's big, fat, happy spiders. No one ever disturbs my spider's webs. You can come and ordain to become a monk or a nun in here. Okay. Honestly, truthfully, I did think I'm going to finish by 8:45 because I always go on too long. But I hope you enjoyed the story of the suicidal spiders and the suicidal man who got cured because he saw someone with no arms but had an itchy bottom. That's the only way he could scratch his bottom. Okay, thank you all for listening. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Any questions or complaints? Yeah, okay. 1, 2. Yeah, go on. Eddie? No, over there. Hi, in the back. Over there. Yeah. Good to see you again. Hi.
Hi. I was just wondering what you thought about the possible changes we may be collectively facing with the increasing rise of AI. I've noticed Brian Cox has been talking about it, and Neil deGrasse Tyson and other people, and they're saying that it may get to a point, well, it's rising so exponentially quickly that we may not even be able to understand it because it may be so far advanced than us. And what do you think the ramifications will be for us collectively?
Well, actually, I'm probably the wrong person to ask for that question because I'm not internet savvy enough for that. I did ask one person once, they put in a topic, and I think I have enough material online, many of my talks, and AI made up a talk, supposedly by Ajahn Brahm, on this particular subject. It sounded nothing like me. I think AI has its limitations. And so I think in the end, honestly, I hardly worry about anything. It's just like tigers and snakes. You're halfway down the well, there's still plenty of honey to eat. That's not an intellectual answer. But anyway, you had a question? And then we have the internet questions. Where'd they gone? Okay.
Oh.
Sorry?
1, 2, 3.
Great.
Oh, Ajahn Brahm, just now you talk about generosity, you know.
Oh, yeah.
The lady who gave the blank check to the other lady to see her dying mother.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, Ajahn Brahm, you know, generosity is an encouraged Buddhist act. Yeah.
Of course,
but by being generous, we lower our ego, we reach out, you know. Okay, yeah. So don't you think, Ajahn Brahm, generosity is also a healer, you know?
A great healer, yes.
Yeah. By doing, you know, like we give dana, or it's a healer.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know that it's been a long time now since I can be that generous. I don't have any money, honestly. And you are generous to me. You were at monastery last Thursday, wasn't it?
Wednesday.
Wednesday, okay. It's close enough. But the way, it's sometimes I get kind of, you know, even that incident with that refugee lady and the Thai lady who wrote a blank check. If I had any money, I'd given it to her, and I felt, oh, why can't I have any money? Should I go and get a job so I can help people? But instead of actually getting a job, actually I have got a job, my generosity is answering your questions, being kind enough to you. I don't care who you are, where you're from, so I can serve you that way. And sometimes many of you criticize me for sometimes working too hard. Please don't criticize me. I would always work more hard than I'm supposed to. That's my generosity. And I enjoy that so much. Every time. Just one of those things which I did years ago, which I'll never forget. It was this, got a phone call from Singapore on a Friday afternoon here, and they said this lady over in Singapore, she's lost her husband, he's dead, and she was just asking, is it at all possible you can come for the funeral ceremony? I asked, when is the funeral ceremony? And they said, it's tomorrow, Saturday. So I'm in Perth. Yeah, I know, but I thought you may ask. So I told him, yeah, okay, I'll see what I can do. So I booked an airline ticket in a couple of hours, and after the talk here on a Friday, I got to the airport, got on the aircraft, and arrived in Singapore on Saturday morning. There's hardly any preparation at all. And I said, I do need a couple of hours of sleep, please. At least there's no jet lag. And I did the funeral ceremony for her. And that's one of those kind of sacrifices I'm really proud of. Just not what I should have done, but what I was very happy to do.
Yeah.
It was just possible, only just.
Also, generosity is similar to empathy, Ajahn Brahm. You put yourself in other person's shoe, and that solves a lot of problems, isn't it?
Indeed, yeah. And I've also found that don't worry about your health or fitness. If it's a generous act, you always get protected. I don't know how that works. These days I say there's heavenly beings and stuff, which I have confidence in. But you don't have to worry too much.
It's all connected, isn't it, Ajahn Brahm?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Thank you.
It's 9:01, so I'll get these questions. Apparently the internet or the laptop is not working. You said?
That's correct.
iPad, okay. Anyway, question 1. I'm feeling afraid that I'll be using very harsh speech if people at work keep poking me with unnecessary things and not listen to my point of view. Please guide me. I don't want to do so one day. Okay. If the more meditation you do and the more quiet you become, the less the people will feel it's a waste of time provoking you. If you respond, then they realize that, you're vulnerable. And they'll keep provoking you until they do get a harsh response. I was just saying today that because we have this Vietnamese monk at monastery, he only speaks Vietnamese, and there's no one at monastery right now who can speak Vietnamese. He doesn't speak any English, and so we can't communicate with him. And he's staying there for a month. Vietnamese monk who only speaks Vietnamese, and no monks at present who can speak Vietnamese. Sorry? And I remember similar cases like that. In Thailand, when they saw a Western monk, they thought, Western monks, they only speak English. And I remember I learned Thai and Lao very quickly as a young monk. And I loved, it's a bit mean of me, just going to these monasteries and listening to what they said of me. And understanding every word. And one of them, because this was strict, I don't mind saying, Ajahn Mahabua's monastery. When I first went there the first day or two, I was listening to these monks saying, see this Western monk who's just arrived? He came by himself, he didn't have an attendant. That proves that he carries money. That's the only way to get here. Of course I don't. And then they were saying all these things about me. And then afterwards, I said, Kop Jai Lai Lai, thanks very much. And I said it was such a good accent that the usual reply of the Thai in culture was to say, die, may I die, because they realized they'd been busted. I knew exactly what they were saying. They became good friends afterwards, they had to, because I realized they couldn't just say something, I wouldn't understand it. So let them poke you with unnecessary things and not listen to my point of view. And then when it's a time for you to say something, then they will listen. If we say too much, people don't listen. If we only say important things every now and again, then they really listen. Oh my goodness, this is the next one from Bolivia. Beyond the extreme of everything happens due to past karma, or it's not past karma, it's just life, how can we recognize the ripening of past karma? Sometimes you can't. And not everything is because of past karma. Some of it is because of present karma, how you deal with some of the problems now. And sometimes it surprises you. So the only thing to do, don't worry about where it comes from, but what you're doing about it right now. And one of those stories is about whenever you know this one, I'm not going to even ask you, you've heard this before, I say it every week. When you tread in the dog poo, what do you do about it? Never scrape it off your feet yet. Please take all the dog poo you step in on the street, please take it back home. And scrape it off in the garden, under the mango tree. If you scrape it off under the mango tree, next year your mangoes will be sweeter and juicier than ever before, and more of them as well. And please, if you followed my advice, I demand, what do you call it, a payment? Please, at least one mango. I'd like to eat that juicy mango, because I know it's not really mango. It's been fertilized by dog poo. And when I eat it, and I bite into it and feel that sweet, juicy mango juice running down my cheek, I would always remember what I'm really eating. Dog poo, transformed into the juiciest mango you've ever eaten. You understand? Do you like juicy mangoes? Anyway, that's how you get juicy mangoes. They're built from dog poo. Ajahn, help. I struggle with depression for 3 years and I start losing hope in life. Can you please help me or give me your blessing? I feel so hopeless. I've already told a couple of stories about depression. There's one story, this guy over in Armadale, he said he was really suffering from depression. And I asked him, what happened to you today? He said, well, I got up in the morning and had some breakfast. What do you have for breakfast? He said, my wife let me have some ice cream for breakfast. Do you like ice cream? Do you ever have ice cream for breakfast? And I said straight away, look, the only reason why you got the ice cream is because your wife thinks you're depressed. So please, see this is the first benefit of being depressed. Now when you get better, please don't tell your wife. Otherwise that's the end of ice cream. When you wake up in the mornings, if you want some ice cream, I feel a bit depressed this morning, and you get as many ice creams as you want. What I was doing is showing him the advantages of being depressed. You get ice cream in the morning when you're not supposed to have it. What else do you get if you're depressed? One of the things you get if you're depressed, you don't have to go to work. Do you like going to work? So you can have a nice holiday. So you're depressed. So there's many of the... Ajahn Brahm. I'm going to get in trouble one day. Actually, I'm probably already in trouble. But if I'm in trouble, I just said, well, I was very depressed when I gave that talk. And then they'll let me get on. Sometimes if you can see the benefits in things, when you see the benefits in things, then you don't get so upset about them. That's what I think I said to the monks, last Thursday. that one of my heroes was a Thai monk who got put in jail unfairly for something he never did. If you were put in jail, would you get depressed? Would you think this is unfair, especially if you did nothing wrong? But this monk thought, wow, I don't have to give any talks anymore. I can just meditate in the jail cell. I'll have no questions to answer. No one to come and sit in front of me after the talk and ask me to go here, to go there. Have a wonderful life. And so he just saw all the wonderful things about being in jail for 2 years. And when in his autobiography, he said those were 2 of the best years of his life. He got plenty of food. He wasn't hurt or tortured. In fact, he had to sleep on the floor, but he slept on the floor in his monastery. There's no difference. So he said, a wonderful retreat for 2 years. Would you like a retreat for 2 years? Okay, well, punch a policeman in the nose. And they'll give you... No, don't do that, I'll get in trouble. It was suggested, I will get a retreat for 1 year, you for 2 years. But you can see, when you see the advantages in things, then you don't get upset. Okay. Question. Hey, question 4. Okay. That's a serious one. Would suicide cause rebirth in a hell realm? No. The person will suffer forever, never be reborn. Same as Taoism belief. No. Is this true? No. At the end of your life, you're not judged by the way it ended. There's so many other things you did in your life also are very important. So it's one of the reasons why there was this young guy doing his year 12 exams, and he just committed suicide before taking them. And the poor family were told by some silly monks that he's going to go to hell. So, oh, come on. Look, if you are doing an exam, I asked, how many subjects are you doing in that exam? He said, 4. How many papers for each subject do you have to be examined with? It's about maybe 2 papers for each subject, 8 papers in all. How many questions in each paper? We don't know, but maybe say 8 or 10. So say it's 8 questions and 8 papers. 64 questions in all. What would happen if the first 63 questions were perfect answers and the last question you answered was a real mess? You got it totally wrong. Would that mean you don't go to university? 63 right, only 1 wrong? It's a pretty good score. What happens in your life? 63 years. How many people are 64 right now? What would happen, Nicholas, if for 63 years you've been acting so well and so helpful, so compassionate, and the last year of your life, you became a drug dealer? Just only a perhaps. Would those first 63 years count for nothing? No. So you measure a whole life, not just the thing which ended it. So it doesn't mean you go to hell. Okay. Thank you for listening. Sadhu. 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 It's nice being able to do those 3 sadhus, with a nice big one at the end. Because sometimes that's the only exercise I get during the day. I talk so much. Thank you for giving me that opportunity. Okay, great. So I wish you all a happy night. Okay, so if anyone's got any questions, I'll be sitting up here for another half an hour probably. That's it. You can bow if you wish. I'm going to wait for you. You want me to bow as well? Excellent.